language, and they don't see braces, or sometimes I do have to wear a brace, but they don't see the signs of disability. And so they think, oh, well, you're not disabled.
Yeah.
You don't have a disability. You can't use that label, because there are people out there with it worse than you who have to use a walker, a chair. But disability just really means that you have something that affects your ability to live your life to the full extent. Like something that, I mean, it's like the way that I explain obsessive compulsive disorder to people is that it's not a disorder. Like you can't say, oh, I'm so OCD. It's not a disorder unless it actually disrupts your life, unless it's a complication that gets in the way of you living your life.
Yeah.
And, you know, some disabilities can be managed to the point where they don't interrupt your life anymore, but you still have a disability, because if you stopped taking care of yourself, they would remanifest. Like if I take my seizure meds on a regular basis, I don't have seizures anymore. That doesn't mean I don't still have epilepsy.
Yeah. We have the same issue with my husband who's blind, but he's able to see like the top part of his eyes, so he can see like people, but he can't see like what you're doing with your hands or anything. And so when people go to shake your hand or something, he can't see that. And so he misses out on like a lot of social cues that happen with like from your head down with your body.
Yeah.
And, you know, just walking across the parking lot is like dangerous for him. But when we park in handicapped and get out and walk, people are like, look at, they're just like walking. There's nothing wrong with them. You know?
Oh, right.
Oh,
they're
there's so much shaming that goes on with parking spots. Like so part of how I got diagnosed with the connective tissue disorder is about 10 years ago cracked one of my vertebrae somehow, probably when I fell skiing. And in the process, also 3 of my discs either herniated, bulged, or one of them was completely smashed.
Oof.
And I couldn't even put on my own pants for like 6 months.
Wow.
So I had a placard for a while. And I have access to one if I need it now, which I don't usually, unless it's really icy, because if I fall and hit that spot again, I would be paralyzed.
Yeah.
Because one of my discs is hitting the spinal cord. And I've had people leave nasty notes on my windshield because they saw me getting out of my car and walking.
Wow.
I have a friend who's off and on in a wheelchair, and if she parks in a spot and is walking that day, and often she's like in and out during a single day, because, you know, you only have so many spoons, and that's a whole concept of like, how do you have enough to shower and go get your groceries, or is today just a grocery day and you don't shower because you can't stand up that long? And she's gotten screamed at by people and had things thrown at her.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
People are
the people who think like that they can see if you are disabled or not based on what they can see, and think that they have the right to judge you. It's pretty massive.
It's wild.
I also have a problem with like the university handicap parking system, because if you're just parking at the university for the day, you don't go over there every single day, there's no point in buying an entire pass like for the semester. And so one day my husband came to pick me up from class, parked in handicapped, and we got ticketed because we didn't have the placard. So what are you supposed to do? Like, walk all the way over to the ticket places, which aren't always handicap accessible, or you just take the $20 ticket. We just take the tickets all the time, but
at least it's only $20. I've had them be $100 before.
Yeah. Well, they build up. So throughout the semester, they get higher and higher, and then they boot your car after a while.
Wow.
Yeah, I tried to in the winter get a pass from the university because it's really icy. And they're like, well, you still have to pay for the regular parking pass
Yeah.
and then an extra for the handicap pass. And I'm like,
What?
well, hello, gatekeeping. Do you know how much
Do you know how
extra?
expensive it is to have
Yeah.
any kind of disability in the first place? Like, let's just tack on to that. No problem.
Let alone in a pandemic where
Right?
I don't have a job because I'm not teaching. I'm in grad school. And also what job am I supposed to go out and get? There's like not really a dearth of jobs available right now.
Right.
And I'm not going to go down to Albertsons and get a job clerking at a like a grocery store in a pandemic.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm immunocompromised.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's awful. That's just
So yeah, it's and the way that it's handled also by the university is just like, so I recently found out that the way, like, say scholarships and stuff are given to students per department is based on equality, meaning every student gets an equal amount. Even though we give financial statements and we give all this other stuff. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
You mean a student that comes in all four limbs working healthy, doesn't even ever go to the doctor? Like some of these like 24-year-olds come in and don't even have insurance because they're just like, I'm cool, I'm healthy, is getting the same amount of money as someone like me, who my medical bills every year are like $10,000 and up.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. That's not an access issue at all.
Right.
Yikes.
Especially when we just established like one of many, many ways of why it's more expensive for people with disabilities to attend college.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Fun story about college and disabilities. I went on a study abroad when I was an undergrad over the summer to Spain. And the professor that was leading that study abroad had not taken the time to read our medical, like any of our paperwork, basically.
Oh my
She did
God.
not read our medical release files. And when we got there, the time change had screwed with a new medication that I was on for my seizures. And I started like phasing out during my morning, because we were also, our classes were 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then they would go, we had siesta, and then we would go from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then everyone would go out for the night, and some nights they'd stay out till 5 a.m. and we had 7 a.m. classes. I have to have more sleep than that. Like, my brain just does not function on that little sleep. And so I was definitely going home earlier most nights when I could find someone to walk back with me. A lot of times I was having to walk back alone 20 minutes from where we were in school to the apartment that we were at alone, in another country.
Yeah.
I'm 21 and I'm like, this isn't cool. So I ended up staying out all night just so I could be near people I knew and feel a little safer.
Yeah.
So I go in and I'm like, hey, I'm having some problems. Like, I'm having like mini seizures in my morning classes because I'm taking my medication too late and it's fixing with me. And my professor, who had not read my form, she's like, what are you talking about? You don't have seizures. No one told me anything about that. Like, you liar trying to get special attention. And then, I mean, this goes best with the gestures, but I'm Amanda and I think I'm special because I have seizures. And if you're listening on the podcast, you might remember a Trump presser where he made fun of a disabled reporter.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what my professor did to me.
What the hell?
And yes, And I mean, I called the university. I called and said, like, oh my God, this is happening. This is ridiculous that someone would do that. And turns out she had the paperwork. And the university told her that I was probably trying to get a free pass for drinking and not doing any work in Spain on my study abroad, and just to ignore me. And it turned into 3 months of, like, every day of the week we had a meeting as a group with this professor. And every day I was mocked repeatedly in front of my peers and in private meetings for being disabled.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I submitted a formal complaint when we got back, but also that was when I had my very first PTSD diagnosis.
Yeah.
And she sued me for libel and defamation of character for filing that complaint.
Oh my God, this story just snowballs.
It just gets worse. And then she failed to comply with court orders, like for turning in any of her paperwork. I went through like a ton of interviews, and she also sued my mom for calling the school and being like, hey, what the hell?
Wow.
It lasted like I graduated undergrad and I went to grad school, and I finished grad school before this lawsuit was over.
Jesus.
And I can only discuss it now because she died last year. I had to sign an NDA with the lawyers and the school and all of that to never talk about that trip, to never talk about the lawsuit, to never talk about any of that, because they didn't want it going to the media. The school, and I have all these documents of the school telling her, like, it's okay, she's just lazy, she's just, trying to get a free pass on these classes, trying to just, how students and how they like to party in foreign countries and not do anything. I'm like, I had a fucking 4.0.
Yeah. I just want to point out that you're like the opposite of lazy, by the way. Like, you're working on 2 master's degrees right now and you already have one.
Yeah, I think some of my overworking tendencies kind of stem from that trauma of being told on a daily basis that I was lazy and stupid and pathetic and a whiner, and all of these things being drilled into my head.
Yeah.
By this person who would go on, the university didn't do a thing. They let her keep teaching these study abroads.
Ooh, ew.
She had tenure. When she finally retired, she was a professor emeritus and she got all these awards.
Jeez.
And yet what she did to me was so vicious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Such a terrible personal attack.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and over a prolonged period of time too.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing, but it's a different thing if somebody has a lapse of judgment or of character, and is a dick. And then later is oh, hey, I was a dick, I won't do that again. But continuing to make that same decision day by day over a 3-month period, that's just somebody who is a dick. No offense to dicks. Sorry. Sorry, dicks, you didn't deserve that.
Yeah, and there was also some slut shaming thrown in there for fun.
Oh, good.
I was a young female college student, and I was like, what?
My Lord.
What is happening here?
Yeah.
But that is sadly pretty standard for how universities perceive disabled students.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't that was asking for a very simple accommodation. I was just can you talk to my morning teachers and let them know that I am essentially give them a DSS note, let them know that I have this condition, it's documented, and I'm not just falling asleep and morning